Hello, and welcome to the Empowerography Podcast. This is a platform created for women's voices to be heard and a place to share their stories, journeys, and successes with the world for the purpose of helping other women who might be on similar journeys. We are empowering women one episode at a time. I'm your host, Brad Walsh, so kick back, grab one of your favorite beverages, and enjoy the stories. If you're looking for jewelry that makes an impact on your self-care routine and your style, Empowerography would love to offer you a discount code to one of our exclusive partners, Quartz & Canary Jewelry and Wellness Company. Please use code EMPOWER15 to receive 15% off upon checkout at www.quartzandcanary.com. Quartz & Canary is truly the place where spirituality meets style. Hello there, Brad Walsh here, your host of the Empowerography Podcast. Today, my guest is Reka Nyari. She is a fine art photographer based in New York City. Welcome, Reka. How are you doing today?
Thanks so much. I'm doing really well. How about you? I'm
doing really well, thanks. How's your day going so far?
It's going really nicely. It's spring here. It's actually a gorgeous day in New York, which is... I've been much awaiting throughout this dark and cold winter.
Yes, I'm sure we all have. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here and share a bit about your story and your journey with us here today. I appreciate you being here and taking the time.
It's my pleasure. Happy to be here.
So, Reka, you've been a photographer for quite a few years now, but it all got started for you on the other side of the camera as a model, correct?
Yeah. I was actually super young. I was living in Hungary at the moment, and I got drafted by like a modeling agency and did it for a little bit while I was going to high school and had like a pretty negative experience with a photographer. And then I quit. And then after I graduated, I came to New York to go to art school. And after I graduated, I kind of didn't have a way to make a lot of money or make any money actually with my painting or my art. And I thought I'd give it another go and modeled in New York, and I was in Asia and in Europe for a few years and traveled, and it was a really good experience. But I was pining kind of to get back to my art. So I quit after a few years and came back to New York.
Were you kind of gun shy about getting back into the modeling world after your shitty experience? Or was it just, you figured, you know what, I'm going to give it another try?
It was in the 90s. It was way before that whole Me Too movement and all this information that came up, about Terry Richardson and all these other photographers that were, abusing girls. And, it was kind of, I felt like I was old enough that, I was 21. I was old enough. I'd lived in New York by myself for 5 years or 4 years. And I felt like I could handle it. And, there were some negative experiences, but generally I'd say it was, there was a lot of positive. I loved to travel, I loved the creativity. But in the end, it wasn't like my calling, I just felt like, I was itching to, get back to New York or get back to creating art. I was, doing painting at that time and kind of doing photography just because I couldn't travel with my easels and didn't have room to paint. But that kind of started my love for photography. I was just traveling around with my camera and being exposed to so many good photographers as well kind of made me fall in love with it more.
So you're now a photographer working and based in New York City. Your art spans from fashion to fine art photography and explores the traditional ideals of beauty and gender to portray sexuality from a predominantly female perspective. Why the focus of beauty and sexuality in your work?
I think it's just something I'm naturally attracted to. I always have been. I feel like female sexuality is a really powerful force that, throughout history has been, undermined or, civilizations and governments are afraid of. And I just, I think I want to shoot the kind of, or capture the kind of woman that, I want to be, which are strong and empowered and in charge of their own sexuality, and in charge of their power. So it's just something I've always, even in my earlier painting days, I've always been attracted to that theme.
Okay. Now, when and how old were you when you first picked up a camera and fell in love with the art of photography?
I think I've been taking photos since I was really young. I mean, my mom was, she's not a visual artist. She's actually a a poet and a writer, but she used to
Okay.
take a lot of photos and, always love it. And I kind of always was using our old film camera to take pictures of family. And I'd make my poor little brother take part in these art portrait shoots where I would like get him naked and put him like in like weird situations and take these art photos of him. I actually should like try to find those photos. But I think I was shooting since like I was like 5 or 6. It's just that I always felt like it was so easy and fun. Like there was a part of me that felt like to be an artist, I had to go through this struggle of painting and creating these pieces that took me a lot longer than, an instant photo would take. So I feel like I've always been shooting.
Okay. Did you take any educational training to become a photographer? I know you had mentioned you went to art school.
I went to SVA in New York.
Okay.
I started there when I was 17, and I majored in oil painting. So I was doing these large scale, photorealistic, oil paintings. And I was shooting, and I also took film photography. So, you have to do sculpture and ceramics and back then it was all film. And I loved it. It was like a class I always aced, I felt like it was easy and fun. I just always thought, I'm a painter. That was just, something that I was in my head since I was a little girl. So, but yeah, I studied film photography. And then later on, when I got back to New York and got back into shooting, I taught myself digital photography. So that was like Photoshop and more like studio work and lighting and editing, using Lightroom, Photoshop, all those tools.
Do you still paint now, or is it strictly photography now?
So I actually don't really paint, but I've been working on a new project. So I'm working on kind of I would say it's mixed media / 2 or 3D type of work that I also do with my photos now. Oh. So definitely a lot more physical. So I've really been craving doing stuff with my hands, I guess, instead of just, shooting and then printing that final product. I'm now actually working on my prints as well.
Awesome. So how far into your journey as a photographer did you decide that, hey, I want to make a living at this and turn this into a business? I love this so much. I want to do this for a living.
So, I guess from the beginning, I feel like part of the reason why I had such a hard time after I graduated from art school is that there was no way for me to make a living as a young woman living in New York. It's super expensive. I didn't have my parents here. I didn't have any contacts. I'm not going to be able to like sell my paintings, straight out of art school for the amount of money that would let me support myself. So once, I quit modeling, came back to New York, I started working in nightlife just a few nights a week, and then started teaching myself photography and try to get gigs. And my first like reaction to the whole thing was like, I need to make money. I need people to support myself. And I feel like photography is a way where it's kind of realistic for you to be able to do that even as you start, because, you can sell your photos, you can do shoots. It's not about, creating these like one of a kind pieces that need to, for example, if you're a painter, you might spend 30 to 50 hours to 100 hours on a piece. Right. And there's no way that you can actually charge that when you're out of school. Whereas if you're a photographer, you can do, I used to do shoots for like $500, and that would hold me over for a week and, and then gradually raise my prices. So.
Do you remember what your very first paying gig was as a photographer? And if so, what was it?
Yeah, so I was working in nightlife at that time, and I was meeting a lot of models, musicians and artists. And I think, in the beginning I shot them for free, but then as my portfolio got better and bigger, I think I started charging bands and music companies and record labels to shoot the artists. So I think those were probably like my first paid shoots. And then commercially, probably I actually was pretty lucky. I posted a lot of my work at the time onto Flickr, and this was like early 2000s, and I was getting a ton of hits there, and ton of followers, and I think I booked like a DC comic shoot or
Wow.
something like that within like 6 months that I started posting stuff up there. So it was I started getting paid clients pretty fast. But I was working really hard on it. I have to say, I was working Thursday, Friday, Saturday nights till like 5 a.m. and then, up at 8 and shooting and teaching myself and editing and, I was hustling.
Yeah. That's a pretty big first commercial client, DC Comics.
Yeah,
wow.
Yeah.
How did that come about?
I think one of their, the guy who actually ended up booking me from the company, had followed my work on Flickr. Okay. And I was doing a lot of creative portraiture, and they were looking for a portraiture, / product / launch shoot for their new characters. I think that there was something like that.
Okay.
And, asked what my rate was. I was like, I have no idea what I would charge. I think I asked my friends to help out, and when I did the shoot.
Wow. What would you say is one of your favorite things about being a photographer? What lights you up the most about it?
There's so many things, I really, I love kind of all the aspects of the job. And, I think the most important thing is just being able to create. I think like many other artists, I feel like if I don't do something creative, I feel depressed and, I feel, like stifled. Like it's like one of those things I feel like I have to do and just makes me happy. But I mean, I love so many other things about it as well. I love working with like people I meet, the people that I get to work with. There's so much creative energy. I love to travel. I love just creating something also just beautiful or meaningful or kind of something that's, for me, I guess, putting my mark out there. It's really fun and challenging and like, I feel like I can, I don't get bored at all.
It's just in your blood.
Yeah.
Which artists or photographers do you personally look up to and admire?
So I've been really looking at a lot of female artists and photographers recently, and I'm, so happy to say that there's so many amazing women out there. I know the field used to be so male dominated back in the day, but I just feel like anytime I'm looking at anywhere, for inspiration, it's this kick-ass woman that are creating this amazing work, which just makes me super happy. Like I have a huge girl crush on this photographer called Daniela Midange. I hope that that's how you pronounce her name, but she's out of LA and she's just so talented. Like all her work is just so good and like creative and beautifully done, and also technically amazing. And she's also just like super beautiful. She does these self-portraits. It's like, like, is there anything that this woman is not capable of doing kind of thing,
Right.
Like multi-talented and multifaceted. And another female photographer, Jamie Nelson, also, she's just amazing fashion and beauty photographer. And she just, not only is she that and amazingly successful, but she's also like interior designer and she decorates her house, and she's also like super hot and kick-ass and like, like rides Harleys. And I just like, like, okay, another girl crush. There's this third woman also. I think she's quite young. Her name is Elisaveta Porodina, and she's a fine art photographer, and her work is just incredible. And she's like, doing huge commission work and working for the biggest, best magazines and fashion designers in the world right now. And it's very inspirational to see that, that you have young women really like making their mark in the industry and creating amazing work.
Well, I mean, with you and the work that you create, the beautiful pieces of art you create, how important is the technical versus the creative for you when shooting? Is there one that outweighs the other when you're shooting? Like, is technical really super important to you when you're shooting a project?
I mean, it kind of is in a way, because if you don't, if there's something you need to get, like, you need to light up something a certain way, or, you need to capture something and, you don't know how to do it. This is kind of the mistakes I've done in the past when I started shooting. Like, I look at my work and, in the end, it's like blurry when it shouldn't be, or it's not focused correctly, or, I'm, so if you kind of need to get the basics right, but I do think that the creative is more important. I feel like there's been a lot of, like, I've had like a lot of assistants, for example, that are really good technically, really good technical photographers. And those are great to have on set. Like if you're like me and I'm not super technical, that they know exactly how to make sure that, your equipment is working a certain way, and, making sure that all that is there. But if you don't have the creative ideas and the artistic eye, then, with all that technology, you're just not going to get that product that you want,
Yeah. What inspires you to create the art you create? Where do you pull your inspiration from?
So I think I do think New York City is a huge inspiration, which, a lot of people I feel like have been moving out of New York, and we were thinking about spending time outside of New York, and actually just got a place in upstate New York, and have been kind of like escaping into nature, and which has been nice. But I just feel like New York City has such an amazing creative soul and energy about it. And I feel like every time I leave my house, my apartment here, I'm just, inspired by the people, like the way that people talk and walk and dress up. And, you have such a underbelly of creative weirdos out here. I mean, I just feel like it's so inspiring to live here. And then I also get really inspired by movies and music and other artists, it's, I love looking at shows, and I think just life in general.
Yeah, New York is a great, beautiful space for spawning creativity and just walking the streets in New York. I love that city. It's so amazing. I've been a few times, and it's just, I get lost in that city walking around with my camera. I just love it.
Yeah, it's so amazing. And I feel like now New Yorkers are really kind of sticking together a little bit through this whole COVID situation. And it's just such a amazing vibe. I don't know where else I would live, where would I move? I don't know. I don't know where else I could move.
Yeah.
I'm stuck.
When you aren't actually shooting paid photography work, what do you do to keep your mind in that creative space, personal projects and things like that?
Yeah, I've actually been really lucky. I'm, mostly now these days I'm working on my own personal art projects, which then, I work with different galleries in New York and around the world, and show my work. So I most of my work actually has been personal projects, which is, really amazing on one hand, but it's also really hard because I don't really have necessarily deadlines and, a client that tells me I need to do something. It's something that I need to actually, put my heart and soul into and produce this work. But I've been working on, for COVID was actually a little bit hard, the whole lockdown, because we have a 5-year-old daughter, and she was at home, and I couldn't really do my art and homeschool at the same time. So I took, I would say 6 to 8 months off. And now she's been going to school again, and I've kind of gone back into doing my projects, which just feels amazing.
That's what I was just gonna say. It must feel amazing to be able to get back to it, right?
Yeah, it does. It does feel amazing. And I feel like, I had a lot of ideas that were incubating. So even though I wasn't necessarily shooting and editing or working on my artwork, the same way I usually would be. I think I was working on a lot of ideas, and I was itching to get back into work. So now it's huge production time. So I'm I'm trying to get stuff out as soon as possible and working on ideas and stuff.
Well, get stuff out of your head. You've had all this time to incubate and come up with ideas for projects. And now that you've got the time to do them, it's okay, I've got all these ideas. They're flooding out, and it's okay, which one do I focus on, right?
Yeah. No, yeah, that too. Yeah, for sure. So lots of work, definitely. lots more work than I can fit into a day every day, but it's getting done.
Things to be busy though. That's good.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, you've received many awards and accolades for your work from many prestigious organizations. Do you remember what the very first award you received for your work was?
Yeah, I think I got the International Photography Award, the IPA award for beauty photography for this like really creative black light beauty shoot that I did. And probably like 2011 or something like that.
Okay. Now, you've also had some pretty high-end clients. How did you get your foot in the door? I know that you posted a lot of your work on Flickr, as you mentioned, but what other ways did you go about getting your foot in the door to get those higher-end or big commercial clients? I know you said your first one was probably DC Comics, but can you name off a few others and how those came about?
Yeah, I think I mentioned, but I was, working in nightlife. I was working in one of like the hottest clubs in New York City at the time that was like turning all the celebs away at the door. Right. And I was doing bottle service there, and I got to know a lot of, not only like a lot of artists and people that ended up shooting, but a lot of clients were coming in. So as I got to know these people that were, coming in every Friday or Saturday night for tables, and I spent a lot of time with them, selling champagne and shots and stuff, let them know I'm a photographer and showed them my work. And then people just, it was really amazing. People were giving me a chance. Like I ended up doing campaign for Rado watches for 2 years or 3 years in a row. And I didn't know how I got the gig. It was like super, it was like, I got an email from Rado Switzerland, that they're flying in their team from Switzerland to shoot with me. And, I wasn't sure how I got the gig. I was like, how did they find me? And then at the shoot, one of my clients comes in, from nightlife that I know for the last year. Wow. And he's like, you showed me your work, and I put it through the team and they loved it and they hired me, So it was a lot about who, I guess it's true. It is a lot about who to get your foot in the door. It is really good to have contacts and friends and people who like your personality as well, because in the end, they do want to hire somebody who not only does good work, but they really get along with, you know?
For sure. That's the relationship part of it's important.
Yeah. So I think it was that. And then I was putting my work up, online a lot. So I feel like I got like a pretty big following on Flickr, and it was like, I don't think Flickr is going at, I haven't been really doing that, since my career took off, but I don't know if there is a platform that is similar to Flickr that actually gets people work, or maybe Behance.net through Photoshop might be a good place to post, but where people actually, art directors and people, they like shop around for artists and photographers, but
right. Now, you've had your work published in many big name magazines. Does that still excite and thrill you the same as it did at first to see your work in the pages of these magazines? Does it still have the same effect?
I think so. I think it's always really fun and really nice to see, your work printed or, out anywhere. And, I think it's always a good feeling for anyone.
Do the accolades mean that much to you though? Being more established in your career, does it have the same effect for you though? Like, I mean, yes, you appreciate seeing your images in these magazines, but are the accolades important to you? Like, do you chase that, or is that not really a thing you worry too much about?
I don't think you worry about it. I think it's just like nice to see it out. It's almost like, hey, oh, nice. That is really nice to, get the recognition and, have, people like your work and feel like sharing it. So, I think you always, as an artist, you worry about your work staying relevant, and, just because people were buying your work or, hiring you one year doesn't mean that that's going to happen the next. So I think it's always feels great to get recognition and get jobs and have your work printed or have people buying your pieces, it's relevant every year.
Right. What advice would you give someone wanting to pursue a career as a photographer?
So I would say, if you're doing something else and you feel like, there's something you want to pursue instead of your career at the moment, not to, not jump into it too fast. Like, I think it's okay to do things gradually, and not be discouraged. Like, to start creating, start writing down ideas, do an hour a day, do 2 hours a week, do a shoot, spend some time editing it, and then put it out there. Because I think a lot of people in the beginning are really, like, I don't know how to say, have low self-confidence, or, don't believe in their work. But if nobody sees it, then, A, you won't be getting feedback, you won't grow. And B, if it is good, which, sometimes sometimes you might not know how good it is at the beginning, it won't take you anywhere. So, start creating, work hard at it, and then get it seen.
Was that ever something that you struggled with personally, being wary or leery or frightened of putting your work out there for other people to see?
I kind of always wanted to put it out there, because I realized really early on that like my eye needed training, and it was weird seeing, posting an image that I really liked wasn't getting the same feedback, for example, wasn't getting the same amount of likes as something else. And then realizing when I was looking back at my work that my eye was completely changing. So, with the photos that I really liked, a year before, I was like, why did I pick these in my editing process? Like, I should have picked something else. Right. So I think, I realized pretty early on that it was really good to get an opinion. But then again, like, you don't want somebody else, like, it needs to still be you. So you don't want somebody else to determine what is you and what you're putting out there either.
Yeah.
So I think it has to be like a healthy balance, like, get feedback, learn from it, grow, but still don't be influenced too much by what other people say. If you believe in something and it's you, then, stick to your guns.
Yeah. Do you think that in terms of style and things like that, is that for you, is that something that is constantly changing your style as you grow and learn more as a photographer? Because I don't think we're always learning. We're always learning new techniques.
Yeah.
You think,
no, of course.
Is your style ever changing?
Yeah, I think it's changing. I think it's changing. And I think I'm going into a stage where I'm actually being a lot more experimental and kind of getting more abstract to a degree. And I think I'm just kind of doing what I enjoy doing and hope that others like it too. But yeah, I think I still have like the same, kind of blueprint of what I kind of like to show or the direction I like, but I definitely feel like I'm changing and growing, and what I'm doing is kind of evolving. And I think it's a good thing. I think if we just, keep doing the same thing year after year after year, it just kind of gets boring,
Yeah. Really. How important is that, do you think, to constantly be evolving in your style and in your way of working?
Yeah, I don't know how important it is. There's a lot of, artists that have been doing the same thing for decades,
Right.
And I don't know personally how they feel, if it's something like you feel like, it sells that, you're painting dots, and then, if you're painting triangles, it doesn't sell that well. So you're going to be painting dots for the next, 50 years.
Right.
I'm sure that is kind of a pigeonhole that you want to kind of get out of as an artist. But I think it's individual. I think sometimes people, it can work against you too. Like if you're working in one medium and doing one thing, and then you just like completely throw that away and do 360 or something completely different. I know that it can be really hard to establish yourself as an artist that way. So it's more like when you're more established and people actually collect your work, then you can kind of get away from your previous work a little bit more. Right. Hopefully.
What do you think your unique skill set or superpower is that's helped you become successful?
I think I'm very determined. Like that's one of those things, like I think, early on when I, got those bigger jobs or whatever, I kind of don't doubt myself. I just go and I do things. I think I've always been like that. I just like go head first and kind of think later. Yeah. But I think it's worked out really, well for me. I feel like, if you do make mistakes, then learn from those mistakes. But I'm kind of, I just, I go and I kind of think later.
Dive in head first.
Yeah.
What profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
So I always really always wanted to be like a singer and a rock star since I was a kid. And I have a horrible singing voice, so that like there's no way that could happen. But if I did have a good voice, then that's something I would love to like sing and perform. Yeah, if I could.
Well, some artists are like rock stars, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think my daughter, I told my daughter that, and she said to me, "Mommy, you are a rock star. You are an artist and a rock star." Yeah, like, yeah, that's right.
What was a turning point in your life, and how did that affect you?
I think probably when I moved to New York, I was 17 and I just graduated, from high school, and I'd never been to the US or New York. And yeah, I came here like with my first boyfriend. I was, just completely like I was a child. And it was like, yeah, it was a really amazing experience. And I think, changed for the rest of my life.
What's something people seem to misunderstand about you?
I don't know. I guess I can come across as a little bit harsh because I often say what's on my mind, and maybe that's like the Finnish part of me. I'm half Finnish, and like Finnish people kind of just like say what they mean, and yeah, you don't really do small talk or like make things prettier around the edges. If somebody asks your opinion, you just kind of like say it. So I think people then tend to think I'm like a lot harsher. Yeah. But I'm really not that like harsh. I'm actually really nice. Yeah.
What is one of the best pieces of advice you've ever received?
Probably like to be myself. I don't really know who I'd really, I mean, it's always like, for example, my parents and my mom always, said the same thing, like, be yourself, be your authentic self. Don't try to, be anybody else, or, you should have self-confidence in your, like yourself,
Yeah.
Be yourself and like yourself. And it's kind of like everybody else is taken. Don't try to become something else,
Yeah.
And I think
how do you define success? What does that word mean to you, Reka?
I mean, I would say like, I guess success is, being happy and kind of being content in what you have in life. I don't think success is measured by like having a huge amount of money. I think, being successful in your career is important. And, for me, when I feel that my work is appreciated and I actually get to do it for a living, I actually get to be an artist and make money and support myself. That's huge for me. But, that's success for me already. I don't feel like I need to be like world famous or recognized, although it would be nice.
Sure, of course.
I'm not saying no to that, but I think it's just, just being happy and, appreciating everyday life is like huge.
Yeah. What makes you feel inspired or like your best self?
When I actually take care of myself, and I feel like older I'm getting, like my body's like breaking more. Like if I'm out drinking all night and I'm hungover, like I don't get anything done anymore. Whereas like when I was younger, I used to be able to do anything. So I actually just been recently like waking up at like 6 a.m. and then I work out and I eat healthy. I'm plant-based, I work out and I kind of, take care of myself, and then I'm so much more focused. I get so much more done. I feel productive.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm happy with my work, and, I'm happy with my, life and all that. So I kind of feel like the older I'm getting, I need to take care of myself. So.
Right. Okay. To date, what would you say is your biggest high or your greatest win?
I mean, I guess when I had my daughter 5 years ago, like my biggest fear about having kids was being able to balance, being a mom and then also being an artist and working for myself. And I was so scared that, this having kids thing was going to like overrun my whole life. And I was going to have to give up my art and my career and my friendships and my traveling. And I always just like, I was very selfish always. I'd say I've always had like an amazing life and traveled and had fun and partied and, have really great friendships and a really great relationship with my husband. And I guess like being able to balance that, like when I realized that I didn't have to give up any of those things, that I could be a mom and I could be a good mom.
Yeah.
And raise a child, independent child, and still travel and work and do my art and have my friends and have my relationship and all those things at the same time. That's been like really amazing to realize. So I don't know if that would work if I had more than one child. I think something has to give, but at least, having one child, I feel like that's been like a pretty amazing experience.
What does the word empowerment mean to you?
I guess it means freedom and power and equality for women, for minorities, for the LGBTQ, for anybody who's been marginalized and suppressed throughout, our history. I feel like being empowered means like having a voice and being able to be yourself and equal to everyone else.
How would you like to be remembered?
I guess like a loving, good, kick-ass woman who made a difference in the world.
Excellent.
Something along those lines.
How would you describe yourself in one word?
Yes, I guess strong.
Strong.
Yeah.
What's the first thing you notice about a person?
I would hate to sound so superficial, but probably the way that they're dressed, to be honest. Right. But I mean, if we're looking at it, probably their confidence and their eyes and the way they just carry themselves.
What is one of your biggest failures, and what did you learn from it?
So when I was first starting doing fine art photography, I actually got a show in Hong Kong, and I didn't have any contacts there. I didn't know if I was going to sell, and at that time, even now, doing an art show is a big investment. You have not only the production cost of you creating the artwork, but then you have printing and framing and transportation and all these other things. And I really didn't have the money, but I also, I was just really scared to put that much money into a show in a place that I didn't know if I was going to sell anything. And then I was going to be stranded with all these big pieces and, spend another, $10,000 trying to transfer them out of Hong Kong. So I did things really cheaply, and I just remember that it just didn't present my work in the right light. Like it looked, I'm really proud of the way that I show my work, and very big on quality. And I just was kind of ashamed. And, in the end, I ended up, it still looked good. I think I was probably harsher on it than anybody else, and I ended up selling a ton, and I was just so regretful. I wish I would have presented it better. I would have sold everything, but I didn't know. But since then, I just haven't done anything unless I do it well, and unless I do it in a way that elevates my work. And I think if you do things, I mean, it's like it's a double-edged sword. When you first start out as an artist, you might not have the money to really frame your pieces and present them, but I think it can be hard. It can cheapen your work a lot if you don't give it the right time and attention and money to present in the way that it should.
So what would you say to someone then that's in that position? What would you tell them to do and how to deal with that situation if they didn't have money and they had a big art show?
Yeah, I mean, I would say do it the best that you can, if you need to, if you don't get them framed by a framer, is there any other way that you can make it look better? Can you go smaller, but still do, really good framing? Or is there a way for you to, even if you're pinning stuff to the wall, do it really well, pay attention to the details, do amazing lighting if you can, bring in your own lights, don't show your work in a way that it's not going to be elevating it.
Right. Okay. What is your personal motto, Reka?
I don't know, really. I think I would say treat others the way. Actually, there are a few. There's few. I would treat others the way that you want to be treated, and I've kind of always lived by live every day like it was your last. Don't leave things unfinished. Tell everybody you love them. Make every day count, make every day good. And like any time that you, like, let's say you die right now, you feel like you'd had a good life and you've done the best you could.
Mm-hmm. What gives you the motivation to keep going?
I think it's my daughter a lot. I would say she gives me a lot of motivation. But also just being creative and surrounding yourself with good people. I think it's pretty huge. I think a lot of times we all want to kind of like give up and don't believe in ourselves, but I think it's important to have like positive people around you that you can talk to.
What is the most recent investment you've made in yourself?
I was probably a gym membership, which now I haven't used in a year. Hopefully that'll be back soon. It was probably like my Equinox membership.
Yeah. Okay. Who in your life has had the biggest impact on you and why?
I would probably say my husband, Ian. He has been super supportive of me. And actually in the beginning, when I first started doing photography, digital photography, he is actually an amazing photographer and a designer. And he taught me Photoshop and like gave me his laptop, and he had his little photo studio set up, and like he kind of just took me under his wing and taught me so many things, and then, supported me and helped me get a head start. And I feel like as an artist, you in the beginning, you kind of need somebody, either it's your parents or a friend or a mentor or a partner or somebody who kind of supports you through those, first months or years when you're just kind of getting started. And also, I mean, I would say my mom too. She's another person. She always kind of pushed me to do art and was always just a very positive force in believing and never pushed me to become a doctor or a lawyer or any of these things. She's like, you're an artist, do what you love.
Do you strictly shoot digital now, or do you shoot film still, or?
I shoot film sometimes. I do have my film camera, and it just I just did a film shoot for an analog magazine a few years back, and it ended up costing me like thousands of dollars in film and scanning. I set myself a limit of like, I think 3 or 5 film rolls, and I ended up shooting like 25 rolls, and it was just like a complete disaster. I was like, and in the end, the photos came out amazing, but it was so expensive that there's no way that I could, shoot film for work. But I do, I've been actually meaning to, this is a good reminder. I've been meaning to shoot some more film and stuff, but I do feel like in the end, you end up scanning the film anyway, and it becomes digital. So even though there's that really nice surprise quality about it, I do feel like, for my purposes, I can probably achieve that with my digital work as well.
If you came with a warning label, what would yours say?
Cross at your own risk. Probably. Yeah.
If you could teach the world one thing, what would that be?
I guess to, if we're talking about the world, value the girls and the women that are, born around the world that aren't getting the education and the appreciation and love and nurture, that they should be getting. I think a lot of women are still born into really horrible situations and childhood marriage and, slavery pretty much and no chance of education or anything. So, I mean, it would be amazing to see like the whole world, treat children in general better, but treat girls better and educate them.
If you could sit down and have a 1-hour conversation with anyone in the world, alive or dead, who would it be and why?
I would probably be one of these amazing queens of the past that just dominated like a civilization, like Cleopatra or Queen Elizabeth I was, pretty legendary, and would be really amazing to talk to them if we could share the same language.
Yeah. If you could go back and give your younger self one piece of advice, what would that piece of advice be?
It would probably be not to be so harsh on myself. I think, when I was younger, I was just so self-critical about myself and my body and my looks. And, I think young women can be so harsh on themselves and worry about, a few extra pounds. And, I had eating disorders and, I was just so, I'm obsessed about things that I really shouldn't have been worried about at all. So yeah, I would just tell myself to love myself more and be less critical.
Lastly, if you were to deliver your last 30-second speech to the world, what would that last 30 seconds sound like?
So, I mean, if I was a rock star, I would just be like singing. I'd still probably want to like sing my heart out. It might sound horrible to everybody else. It'd be like the most horrible 30 seconds, but probably like a love ballad to the world.
All right.
Yeah.
Reka, thank you so much for taking the time to be here today and share a bit about your story and your journey and about photography and your journey as a model into photography. I appreciate you taking the time to be here.
No problem. My pleasure.
I'm a huge fan of your work, and I have been for many years. So this is an incredible moment for me to be able to interview you and have you on my show. I'm so honored to have you here and share this time with you. So thank you very much. You've made my day by being part of this community that I'm creating here. So thank you.
No, thanks for doing this also. It's great. Really happy to be here.
Once again, my name is Brad Walsh, host of your Empowerography podcast. My guest today has been Reka Nyari. She is a fine art photographer based in New York City. Thanks so much, Reka. I hope you have an amazing day.
Thanks, Brad. Thank you. You too.
Thank you very much for listening to this podcast. If you haven't yet, please be sure to subscribe, rate, review, and share with all your friends. You can find me at viseuphoria.ca and follow me on Instagram at Empowerography Podcast and on Facebook at Empowerography. Please join me next time for another inspirational story from yet another amazing woman.